our mission here at CNN and journalists. The news comes first. That's when your heart beats a little bit faster. More breaking news that we are following right now. You really work as hard as you can getting the facts. We're learning more about an alleged plot. It is critically important. To our viewers in the United States and around the world, welcome to the Situation Room. We have breaking news.
I'm David Culver in Beijing, and this is CNN.
You are live in the CNN newsroom. I'm Jim Acosta in Washington. The January 6th committee is imploring the American people to pay attention. In this week's primetime hearing, they laid out a presentation that former President Donald Trump directly inspired extremist groups to breach the U.S. Capitol. The panel plans to present more evidence in a new round of hearings next week, promising to show that Trump concocted a 7-point plan to stay in power at all costs, even though he knew Biden won a fair election. This is the mob that Trump assembled. You're seeing the video once again. According to the committee's Republican vice chair, Republican Liz Cheney, previously unseen body cam footage shows an officer under attack by insurrectionists. We also heard testimony from people very close to Donald Trump.
I had 3 discussions with the president that I can recall. I made it clear I did not agree with the idea of saying the election was stolen and putting out this stuff, which I told the president was bullshit. And, you know, I didn't want to be a part of it, and that's one of the reasons that went into me deciding to leave when I did.
How did that affect your perspective about the election when Attorney General Barr made that statement?
It affected my perspective. I respect Attorney General Barr. So I accepted what he was saying.
No surprise that Trump's response to this testimony was to trash his attorney general, but he's also dismissing his own daughter, saying she was checked out at the time. I'm joined now by a member of the January 6th Select Committee, Democratic Congresswoman Zoe Lofgren of California. Congresswoman, thank you very much. It was a powerful presentation the other night. Do you think the Justice Department was watching?
Well, I'm sure if there were 20 million viewers, there were some of those viewers who are DOJ employees. So we'll see what they think in the end.
And why were some of those clips, do you think, important to show? People like the Attorney General, Bill Barr, the president's own daughter, Ivanka Trump. What were you trying to accomplish there?
Well, the first hearing was really a preview of the hearings to come. And I think it is important for people to know, and our hearing on Monday will go through this in greater depth, that Trump lost the election. All of these claims of fraud were investigated, and he was told they weren't true by people in his own government and his own family. And he persisted because it was fundamental to the multiple schemes of the plot that big lie be accepted in order to seize power.
And Chairman Benny Thompson says that you all have evidence of extremists engaging with people in Trump's orbit. That was the phrasing he used. I know you don't want to get into specifics just yet, but that's a pretty explosive claim. When he says orbit, are we talking about members of Congress, White House officials, Trump campaign staffers, all of the above?
I think I'll just let that evidence come out at the appropriate hearing. We're going through very methodically. As I say, Monday morning at 10 Eastern Time, we will go into the big lie, for lack of a better word, the fraudulent claim that the election had been stolen through fraud. We'll go through, some of the president's supporters are allegingly he really never got his day in court. That's not true. We'll go through that. And I think have people receive a common understanding from people in Trump's own world. These are Trump world witnesses who can dispel the false narrative that the election was stolen.
And one of the most remarkable things that we heard on Thursday night, Vice Chair Liz Cheney saying that multiple GOP lawmakers sought pardons for their role in January 6th, including Congressman Scott Perry. And Perry, we should note, he has denied this. He tweeted this: "The notion that I ever sought a presidential pardon for myself or other members of Congress is an absolute shameless and soulless lie." Your response to that? I suppose you're saying it's not a lie.
Well, I'm going to let the evidence be unfolded in its proper order. But when I saw that, I was reminded of Minority Leader, Republican Leader Kevin McCarthy, who said what a vicious lie that he had ever called for the president to resign. And it was just an hour later that the audio tapes were released. So I think we'll let the evidence unfold in an orderly way.
But this notion that, this accusation that Republican members of Congress were seeking pardons, what does that suggest? I mean, there are folks who were commenting afterwards that what this suggests is that there was a, I guess, a knowledge on the part of some of these members that they might have done something that would merit a pardon or require a pardon to stay out of hot water.
As a general matter, you don't seek a pardon if you don't think you've done something that could be prosecuted as a crime. That's the only reason why people seek pardons. So, it is what it is. And as I say, we're going to roll out the evidence first on Monday about the big lie and then the other elements of this plot. And I'll say this, that we have been very careful not to suggest something was true if we didn't have evidence to back it up. We know that some of our Republican colleagues are trying to discredit the committee and the evidence. So it would be unwise to say anything that we can't back up. We've been very careful about that.
And one of the most stunning moments, another one, there were several, on Thursday was General Milley's testimony, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. He said it was Vice President Pence, not President Trump, who led the security response during the Capitol attack. He said the White House, specifically the Chief of Staff at the time, Mark Meadows, was focused on the politics of all of this. Let's revisit that. We'll talk about it.
Yeah.
He said, we have to kill the narrative that the vice president is making all the decisions. We need to establish the narrative that that the president is still in charge and that things are steady or stable or what's that thing. I immediately interpret that as politics, politics, politics. Red flag for me personally, no action, but I remember it distinctly.
I mean, that is remarkable coming from the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. Are we going to find out what Trump was doing during the attack? We don't have all of those details. Do you think we're going to get those details?
Well, we'll get a lot of details. I don't know that we have every single minute, but we will get the main elements of what he was doing. And what he wasn't doing was anything to stop his supporters from trying to overthrow the electoral count. He was not calling. He never did anything. He didn't call General Milley. He didn't call the Secretary of Defense. He didn't try to do anything to protect the Capitol. The Vice President tried, and obviously he's not in the line of command, but at least he was making an effort to protect the Constitution, something the President failed to do.
And I know you weren't going for the ratings on Thursday night, but the Nielsen numbers have come in, and it's been estimated that some 20 million Americans were watching the hearing, the very first hearing, unfold on Thursday night. Of course, that does not include Fox, because Fox was not showing the hearing. Did that meet your satisfaction? Is that what you were hoping to see, that many millions of Americans tuning in? Do you consider that a success?
Well, I had no idea or really any expectation of how many people would tune in. It seems to me that that's an awful lot of Americans who watched. And isn't it ironic that the Fox News commentators are constantly talking about so-called cancel culture, and what they're trying to do is make sure that the American people don't actually see the committee's work. Cancel culture on steroids.
They try to cancel you.
That's right. but we broke through, I think, to multiple millions of Americans. And, you know, the ratings will go up and down, I'm sure. The meeting on Monday is at 10 a.m. Most people are at work at that time, but it's carried online, and we'll have an opportunity for people to see it in the evening or later at their leisure if they wish. We're going to just methodically plow through this as we did on Thursday night. We'll have a mix of live witnesses as well as video from the many, many, many interviews that have been conducted, as well as the production of documents. So people will be able to see the evidence and that we have to support the things that we are saying.
All right, Congresswoman Zoe Lofgren, thank you very much. Good luck with the rest of the hearings. We appreciate it.
Thanks very much. Take care.
All right, you too. As supporters of Donald Trump breached the Capitol, the then president took aim at Mike Pence, slamming his number 2 on Twitter after the former vice president announced he did not have the authority to toss out electoral votes as Trump demanded. It was a move that did not go unnoticed by at least one member of the people storming the Capitol.
Mike Pence didn't have the courage to do what should have been done to protect our country and our Constitution, giving states a chance to certify a corrected set of facts, not the fraudulent or inaccurate ones which they were asked to previously certify. U.S. demands the truth.
So just how did Trump respond upon learning that some in the crowd were chanting, "Hang Mike Pence"? According to committee Vice Chair Liz Cheney, the former president, the president at the time, said maybe our supporters have the right idea. Mike Pence, quote, deserves it, according to Liz Cheney. Let's talk to Olivia Troy about this. She joins me now. She's a former Pence advisor during the Trump administration. Olivia, thank you so much. Are you at all surprised by that revelation? That is one of the revelations, and there were many on Thursday night, that really stands out to me. And you know Mike Pence well. How do you think he took that?
Look, unfortunately, I'm not shocked that Donald Trump would sit there and say that and just watch his own most loyal soldier, Vice President Pence, be in danger and not do anything about it and not care, and yet honestly bask in the glory and root the protesters on, like those people, right, against him, because it was about him. And so I'm not, I say I'm shocked to hear that the president of the United States of America had a complete dereliction of duty in that day, in that moment, behave that way. It is who Trump is. This is who he is. This is his character. This is what he's been and what he was the entire time that he was in office.
And let's talk about Pence. Just this morning, he tweeted this. We can put this up on screen. January 20th, 2021, $2.39 a gallon. June 11th, 2022, $5 a gallon. American prosperity under the Trump administration, Trump-Pence administration, priceless. You know, I have to ask you, Olivia, I mean, obviously we have to point out the price of gas at that time that Pence is talking about when it was lower was during a pandemic. There weren't as many people driving cars, so there wasn't as much demand. But put that to the side for a moment. You have Pence essentially still trying to claim credit for what occurred during the Trump administration, while at the same time we're getting these revelations that Trump thought it was a good idea for him to be hanged. How do you sort that out? What's going on?
Yeah, look, I think this is a story of Mike Pence's 4 years under Trump in the administration that he served in. I think, you know, he is defending the policies that he was the lead of in the Trump administration and a part of, but yet he's also part of this whole situation where there was this dangerous person sitting in the Oval Office. And so I think Mike Pence is trying to thread the line and thread the needle of what does his political future look like while he still tries to court Republican voters that are not full-on Trumpists, while also trying to keep moving forward when all these revelations come forward about what the reality was of what he was facing inside the White House, especially in the lead up to January 6th.
And Olivia, I know you think that the threat of January 6th did not end on that day or with Trump's departure from the White House. Do you think these hearings will be enough to convince Americans of that? I do think it was fascinating that the New York Post editorial board today was saying it's time for the Republican Party to move on from Donald Trump in light of what was said on Thursday night. That's the Murdoch-run New York Post. Wall Street Journal said something to that effect as well. What do you think? Do you think that there are some cracks there in Trump's hold on the party after what happened Thursday night?
Yeah, look, I come from a background where I was a lifelong Republican and still lean conservative center right today. And I have to say that I have greater confidence in the American people that once they are presented with these facts in a very methodical way, which I believe that the committee is doing, that they will understand the fuller narrative in a cohesive way instead of, having the reporting be piecemeal of things that have been revealed along the way. And so I think what's happening here, this is probably Donald Trump's worst nightmare, because this is facts, this is evidence, and the people that they are presenting are people who live this firsthand for the most part, and they're telling the stories of what they saw and what they witnessed. And I'll say this coming week, in the coming weeks with these hearings, I am looking to the people who are White House staff, people like Cassidy, who worked for Mark Meadows, people like Greg Jacob, who served as legal counsel to Mike Pence, because they were there, they witnessed this firsthand, and you can't discount the fact that this is honest, truthful testimony of what they saw about this individual and what happened. And I think that Americans, I hope, are paying attention to this and understanding the reality of how dangerous this moment was and how dangerous we're still in that moment, what it means for the future in terms of many of these people who supported this moment, who are either still in elected office or running for office currently, and why that needs to change and why we cannot allow this to continue.
Yeah, you mentioned some of these lesser known figures from the administration who will be testifying. You mentioned Cassidy Hutchinson, who was a former aide to Mark Meadows, the chief of staff at that time. They didn't get Mark Meadows to testify, but they're getting Hutchinson apparently to testify. She's expected to be one of the live witnesses in these upcoming hearings. And she's the one who said that Mark Meadows was warned by authorities, by the Secret Service and so on, that there could be violence that day. And I suppose, Olivia, you are one of those staffers who was at that level when you were there in the administration. What was it like for folks like yourself to watch this unfold on a regular basis? Trump's erratic behavior, his dangerous behavior, and so on, and the way it unfolded on January 6th. I have to think there's a lot of pressure on these staffers to go out there in front of the cameras and testify when so many millions of Americans are watching.
Look, it is. And when you're living this day by day, every day is challenging and you get blindsided and you're trying to figure out how you navigate in such a difficult situation. And in many times, what is the best thing and the right thing to do when you have no good choices? And that is certainly that I know very well firsthand, and how you sort of hope that you're doing the right thing in a moment where you're trying to do the right thing for the American people, really. But I have to tell you, I am standing in support of the people that are coming forward as witnesses who testified honestly and are telling the truth about what they saw. And I know how hard it is, and I will be concerned. I'll be concerned once we see them in person, we see the videos, for their safety, because I know what's coming their way. And that's when I talk about threats. These actors are still out there, and that movement that believes so strongly, that's been led by this whole situation by lies and disinformation and misinformation, will come forward once again. And I can only imagine what they're going to face in the aftermath of this. And I just, I will be praying for their security and their safety. And I'm grateful that in this moment, their voices will be heard, because I think this is so important for national security and for who we are as a country. I mean, look, no one is above the law. I don't care how wealthy you are, how powerful you are. We're a nation of the rule of law, and I hope that we are still that. And justice, it's about justice and accountability.
All right, we'll see if we get it. Olivia Troye, thank you very much. We appreciate it. All right, coming up, yet another economic indicator proves just how much more everything costs right now. So how are the White House, the president reacting to all of this? We'll talk about that. You're live in the CNN Newsroom.
Chicago's South Side can sometimes carry a difficult, if not dangerous, reputation.
The threats in our community are numerous. There's threats of violence with gangs, with family members. There's guns. There's inequities in the system where students can't even go outside.
But in recent years, a new problem has come to light: human trafficking.
Human trafficking is something that affects every single person, no matter what age, no matter what gender, no matter what identity. It affects every single person.
But inside the brick walls of the Curie Metropolitan High School, a talented group of students has decided to do something about it. The students are part of a collective called Performers for Change. They're led by dance instructor Melinda Wilson.
Yes.
For the students, it's a chance to express themselves while educating their classmates. For Wilson, it's a chance to bring what some might consider a taboo topic out of the shadows.
I hope that it gets teens to really understand the dynamic of how serious and horrific these crimes are.
Afghan women are afraid that this is the beginning of your efforts to erase them from the workspace.
It's not clear. Even if we appear with the burqa, maybe they will say that women's voices are forbidden.
Did you ever imagine that you would be prevented from going to school?
Girls' education is fundamental to the dignity of Afghan life.
Do you believe that young girls will be allowed to go to school here in Afghanistan?
On Culinary Journeys, meet Japan's Natsuko Shoji, a chef earning rave reviews. Inspired by art, she is a rising star in French cuisine and in an industry where men dominate. See how she overcame life's challenges despite the odds and is now paving the way for a new generation. Culinary Journeys, Sunday on CNN, in association with Ajinomoto.
President Biden is in New Mexico right now, a day after a dismal inflation report revealed the consumer price index rose to its highest level since 1981. The national average price for a gallon of gas now tops $5 for the first time ever, this after a week of losses for the U.S. stock market. Biden says fighting the economic crisis is his top priority and blames Russia, big corporations, and Republicans for America's surging prices. CNN's Arlette Saenz joins us now from Santa Fe, New Mexico. Arlette, tell us more about the president's explanation of these record high gas prices. I know he's getting questions about this everywhere he goes. What can you tell us?
Yeah, he certainly is, Jim. And President Biden insists that fighting inflation remains his top economic priority, as these high prices in gas, food, and other sectors really could be a possible liability for him and Democrats heading into November's midterm elections. With gas now reaching $5 a gallon, President Biden today was asked by reporters what his message was for Americans feeling that pain at the gas pump. And he once again pointed to Russia's war in Ukraine as being one of the main factors driving these increases. Take a listen.
It's outrageous what the war in Ukraine is causing, and we're trying very hard to make sure that we've significantly increased the number of barrels of oil that are being pumped out of the reserve we have. We've got 240,000 barrels as well coming out, from other nations. We're going to keep pushing on it.
And yesterday, as the president spoke at the Port of Los Angeles, he also placed some blame on energy and gas companies for not trying to drive down these costs, arguing instead that they are focusing on profits. He specifically called out ExxonMobil, saying that they are going to make Americans know what kind of profits those gas companies are raking in at this moment. He even said that ExxonMobil is making more than God. Now, the president has repeatedly over the course of the past few weeks tried to show that they are trying to get a handle on inflation. Just last week, he had said that they had been hoping that these prices would start to moderate, but that consumer price index report that came out just yesterday showed an 8.6% gain in inflation from just 1 point last year. So that is certainly a figure that this White House was not hoping for, as they fully understand where the American sentiment stands at this moment, even as they try to explain these high gas prices and other high prices in food and other industries, housing as well. Americans are still very weary about what they are having to pay, and that could affect Democrats as they are heading into these November elections. Now, I also want to note that I am here in Santa Fe, New Mexico, where the president will be arriving in just a short while. He will be receiving an update on the wildfires that have been blazing across the state. He has been facing some pressure from state lawmakers who have been asking for the federal government to cover the full response of these fires. So in a short while, we will be hearing from the president as he receives an update on those wildfires, a very important issue for the people here in New Mexico.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you very much, Arlette Saenz. We appreciate it. Still to come, more than 400 protests across the nation as demonstrators demand stricter gun laws. One of them is Zanetta Everhart. Her son was wounded in the Buffalo mass shooting, and she testified before Congress this week. She joins me live next. You're live in the CNN Newsroom.
This is the screen where it happens. The moments that can change the world.
These are the faces we see, the voices we empower. This is the work that continues, who we are today and what we can become.
This is journalism that reflects the world we live in.
When you take a step back and you see the Earth in its entirety, you understand that it's just an oasis in the cosmos. All around is nothing, no life, is blackness, emptiness. And there's this blue ball with everything we need to sustain human life and life in general, which is absolutely fragile. And it makes you want to cherish the Earth a little bit more. I'm Thomas Pesquet, I'm an astronaut for the European Space Agency. You can see a lot of the consequences of human activities from space. Some of them climate change, some of them just plain old pollution. It is definitely my experience of being in space and seeing it with my own eyes that made me want to advocate against climate change. I'm an ambassador for the Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations. We're trying to limit the production, the use of plastic, the production of waste, and so we came up with edible packaging, which is just such a fantastic and simple concept. We need foam to protect everything from shocks during launch into space. So what we did is we turned that foam into food. It's like gingerbread. Now our packaging is at the same time our source of food. It reduces the need to send cargo up. If we set ourselves on the right path, there's nothing we cannot do. We built that unbelievable facility in space. We're using it every day. I'm optimistic for the future. If we can make a space station fly, then we can save the planet.
Gas prices, baby formula shortages, and rising inflation. Former U.S. Federal Reserve Chair Ben Bernanke joins Fareed for a look at America's economy. Is the country heading towards a recession? What can turn things around? Fareed Zakaria, GPS, Sunday on CNN.
I'm Matthew Chance in Kyiv, and this is CNN.
Fundamentally, the world is changing very rapidly because of technology and globalization, and people need to learn new skills. And if they do, there's a wide range of new opportunities for new jobs if people get skilled up. So we think this is going to persist far beyond the pandemic. There's a lot of interest for individuals coming directly to Coursera Online to take professional certificates, to learn the skills, to get new digital careers. But the other thing that we're seeing is that businesses are realizing that embracing technology, going digital, moving to the cloud, using AI makes them more competitive. And so businesses are upskilling their employees using Coursera. And now, post-pandemic, universities and colleges all around the world, even as students come back to campus, they're realizing that integrating online learning into the way that students learn is a great way to provide flexibility and also access to emerging skills.
I'm Isa Suarez in London, and this is CNN.
Americans are pushing for gun reform. They marched in the streets today in nearly every state in the U.S. The rallies in more than 400 cities across the country. They were organized by the March for Our Lives group that was created, of course, by the survivors of the 2018 Parkland High School shooting. The demonstrations follow recent high-profile mass shootings in Uvalde, Texas, and Buffalo, New York that have sparked fresh calls for lawmakers to finally address the violence.
As we gather here today, the next shooter is already plotting his attack, while the federal government pretends it can do nothing to stop it. Since the shooting in Texas, the Senate has done only one thing. They have gone on recess.
If you listen closely, you will hear the cries of our fallen loved ones in our churches, our synagogues, our schools, and now our grocery stores. Lower your weapons and let us replace the hate. Then and only then can we make America great. If not again, when?
The march has come as the Senate mulls a sweeping gun reform package that was passed by the House last week. This week, the mother of a 21-year-old man who survived last month's mass shooting at a grocery store in Buffalo, New York, testified before lawmakers in Congress. She told them how her son was nearly killed in that racist attack.
To the lawmakers who feel that we do not need stricter gun laws, let me paint a picture for you. My son, Zaire, has a hole in the right side of his neck, 2 on his back, and another on his left leg, caused by an exploding bullet from an AR-15. As I clean his wounds, I can feel pieces of that bullet in his back. Shrapnel will be left inside of his body for the rest of his life. Now I want you to picture that exact scenario for one of your children. This should not be your story or mine.
I'm joined now by Zanetta Everhart. She was at the D.C. March for Our Lives protest today. Your testimony, Zanetta, I mean, it was so powerful. I have to ask you first, how is your son doing?
Zaire is doing really well, actually. Yeah, I was in Buffalo just yesterday morning. He had a follow-up doctor's appointment, and his doctor is really happy with his progress. So she liked the way the wounds look. And yeah, it's going to be a long road because, yeah, he has shrapnel still left inside of his body. So some of it is coming up to the surface, so she'll be able to remove some of it. But a lot of it will remain inside of his body.
And what's it been like these weeks since what happened in Buffalo? We were here on the air when it unfolded, and we were in breaking news coverage all afternoon, and it's just unimaginable what you and the other families have been through.
Yeah, I mean, a domestic terrorist came into our community and destroyed us in 2 minutes. He took 10 lives and injured 3 others. How do you move from that, right? It's hard and it's sad what my community has gone through, but I know that we'll move forward. And me being in D.C. today at the March for Our Lives rally was a part of that. You know, testifying in front of Congress was a part of moving forward. That's a part of my healing for Zaire, and making sure that he knows that, you know, I'm never gonna stop pushing for change.
You're his mom.
I'm his mom. That's what I do. I'm I'm his protector, you know? I've always been his protector. So, and I'm not gonna stop because he's 21.
Right, of course.
Yeah.
Today, the president urged gun safety advocates like yourself to keep on marching and said he's optimistic about maybe seeing some gun safety measures getting through the Congress. Do you share that optimism? What was your sense when you were up there?
Yeah, listen, I'm an eternal optimist. I believe that change happens, right? And it happens with marches like the one that I was at today. That's how it happens. It happens with people continuously putting pressure on our lawmakers, calling them, writing them, emailing them, and voting them out if they don't do something about it. I know that those things happen. But I live in reality, right? And I know that there's a struggle. There's a power struggle, you know? We have Democrats and Republicans at each other's necks right now. But right now, this is not about people's personal feelings. You know, I said that in my statement. This is not about lawmakers' personal feelings. This is about Zaire's life. This is about their children's lives. That's what this is about. We have to put all of that to the side, and we have to figure out how we can compromise and keep this country safe, keep Zaire safe. That's what this is about.
What would you like to see passed? What's on your agenda?
Yeah, I raised the age. Yeah, we got it through the House, but it has to keep moving.
For purchasing an assault rifle,
Yeah, absolutely.
an AR-15.
Yeah. Why would an 18-year-old have access to an AR-15? That doesn't make sense in my brain. That's ridiculous. He can't even buy a beer. Can't even go into a bar. But he can buy an AR-15. That's huge. No 18-year-old should have access to anything like that.
And we as parents are supposed to try to make this country a better place for our kids. And right now, it's not happening.
It's not happening.
Are we failing our kids?
We are failing our kids, but that's why I'm in D.C. today, because I'm not going to fail my son. I will not fail him. It is our job to leave this place better than the way we found it. That I believe that. My ancestors left this place better than the way they found it. And I'm going to continue on that legacy. I have to do that for Zaire, and I'm going to do that for everyone's kids. You know, I don't just speak for Zaire, I speak for all of the kids. I want this to be an amazing country for them to live in.
Is it hard, is it difficult when you're down at a demonstration like what we saw here in the nation's capital today and see relatives, friends of people who were lost at mass shooting after mass shooting after mass shooting, going back years, almost decades?
Many years. I met
students,
I met kids from Sandy Hook, Columbine. They were all out there. It was incredible. You know, like, it would be nice if we all came together, you know, a nice kumbaya, and it was a great moment. But we were all there for sad, sad reasons. We weren't there, you know, for happy reasons. We all are now a part of this club that no one wants to be a part of. It is very heartbreaking and it is very sad. And how many more decades do we need to keep having these rallies like this and coming together for these very tragic, sad reasons?
Well, I can tell you're not going to stop fighting.
I'm not going to stop. Listen, before this, I'm not really an activist, but an activist, right? Like, I work in diversity and inclusion spaces. I work for a New York State senator. You know, talking about racism and gun violence is what I get paid to do every day. And now it's at my door. So no, I'm not going to stop. And thank you for letting me use your platform to talk about that.
Well, we appreciate you coming in, and we know you're a mom first. That's
always,
the title.
Always mom first.
That is going to get something done. All right, Zanetta Everhart, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Best of luck to you, and best of luck to Zaire as well.
I appreciate that.
Hope his recovery continues to go well. Coming up, President Biden says the leader of Ukraine didn't want to hear warnings of Russian invasion. Ukrainian officials are now responding. That's next. You're live in the CNN Newsroom.
Connect the World with Becky Anderson.
It all starts here. Changing, fighting, creating, connecting. That's why we're here. We live here, we work here, we're from here, and we'll go wherever the story takes us.
I'm Becky Anderson in Tehran. We are in Jerusalem.
Real news that shapes our world. Exploring not just what's going on, but why.
I just want to press you on one further point.
Getting perspective on this region from this region. Places that many of us know, but few of us get to see. Observing countries on the move, still rooted in tradition. It all starts here, and that's why we're here, bringing you the world from our Middle Eastern hub.
Connect the World with Becky Anderson, Monday through Friday on CNN.
All right, you guys ready?
Alex Jones.
Those thought patterns, the 3 percenters, QAnon group, or the anti-vaxxers, they all originate from Alex.
How much damage can one man do to school shooting victims?
Alex Jones lied about Sandy Hook.
And the country.
The people who listen to him believe the things that he says.
CNN asks those who know him.
He's not like you or me.
Truth doesn't really matter at all.
CNN Special Report, Megaphone for Conspiracy. Alex Jones, Monday on CNN.
We're here now at the home of one of the FSB team, and my name's Clarissa Ward. I work for CNN. Was it your team that poisoned Navalny?
It's just been a chaotic scene here. People are so exhausted. Just gonna help her carry this bag.
We were just in the hospital. It was shocking.
Why do you think India has been hit so badly? Scores of Taliban fighters, and just behind us, the U.S. Embassy.
Why does a small group of women asking for their right to be educated threaten you so much?
Raise your hand if you love school.
I'm the one who has to look them in the eye. Can I have your word? These people are depending on you.
You can hear gunshots every couple minutes. And now they're pressing in. They want desperately to tell their story.
Ukrainian officials today insisting that President Volodymyr Zelensky carefully reacted to all the warnings ahead of the Russian invasion from allies. It comes after President Biden told a crowd Friday that Zelensky, quote, didn't want to hear it. Meanwhile, CNN is getting a closer look at what civilian life is like right now near the front lines of the war. And CNN's Ben Wiedemann is there.
The daily bread has arrived, 2 loaves per person in the frontline city of Bakhmut in eastern Ukraine. There's no gas here, the bakeries don't work, so the loaves, 10,000, are trucked 10 hours here every day. Lilia has come with her 2 grandchildren and says she tries to shield them from the sounds of war. We tell them there are some guys playing with tanks, she says. How can I damage their mental health? You shouldn't do that. It's impossible. That's the roar of outgoing Ukrainian fire. Tetiana is a volunteer helping hand out the bread. Leaving Bakhmut is out of the question. I have 2 children and 4 grandchildren, she tells me. I love them all. I want all of us to live here. It's our land. Everything will be fine. God protects us. Pavlo Dyachenko's job is to investigate every strike, every damaged building for the Bakhmut police.
Airstrike in any time, in the morning, in the evening. We don't know when it's going. People have a damage.
He takes us to a school struck by Russian warplanes Wednesday. 2 passers-by were injured. Classes haven't been held for months. Not far away, a complex of agricultural warehouses has been hit. Workers salvage what they can. Shrapnel tore into the roof of one warehouse containing a precious resource.
We don't know the motives of the Russians for hitting this facility. It's been struck 3 times, most recently on Thursday morning. But one cannot but wonder if all of this Ukrainian grain is the target.
Lyudmila and her 2 children have been staying at this city-run dormitory since March. They fled the shelling on her nearby town. She's pondered leaving to a safer part of the country, but doesn't have enough money, and in the end asks, what's the point? The Russians are coming. It's the same everywhere, she says. When they, the Russians she means, are done here, they'll go further. Yet others aren't so fatalistic, reminded as they wait for the bus out of the city why they should go. Igor, a beekeeper in peacetime, is leaving with his cat, Simon Simyonich. I left everything here, he says, my bees and my house with all my belongings. They load their bags on the bus and go. Ben Wiedemann, CNN, Bakhmut, Ukraine.
Up next, Sarah Palin is on the ballot again, and this time she's running against Santa Claus. We'll explain next. You're live in the CNN Newsroom.
Coffee の持つ力って人と人をつなぐ力だと思ってて。うちの会社のビジョンっていうのは日本のコーヒーといえばフィロコフィアってなることなんですよ。からそれを達成するには世界に向けた通販が必要だったんですよね。
The world's biggest business stories in one place. Expert analysis. From every corner of the globe, Marketplace, Africa, Asia, Europe, and Middle East. With CNNBusiness.com.
Once in a generation opportunity.
Technology, innovation, business.
My name is Naif Al Fayez. I'm the Minister of Tourism and Antiquities for the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan. We felt the impact of COVID not only on the big corporation, we felt it on smaller SMEs, less fortunate people, less fortunate industries. After a very tough 2 years, I think things are looking very optimistic and looking good. Recovery is starting. If you look at tourism and what it brings a lot of hope to the Jordanians, it brings a lot of hope for those who have been suffering for the last couple of years. I'm very optimistic, excited that recovery is coming back. Hopefully that with what we're seeing, that the recovery could be much faster than what we have anticipated.
We share this place, we all belong.
I'm David McKenzie in Cape Town, and this is CNN.
June 20th, a CNN concert event. Let's celebrate, educate, and lift every voice. Juneteenth, a global celebration for freedom. Live from the Hollywood Bowl, only on CNN.
In a shocking announcement, Justin Bieber says he is taking a break from performing because of paralysis on half of his face. He posted this message on social media.
It is from this virus that attacks the nerve in my ear and my facial nerves and has caused my face to have paralysis. As you can see, this eye is not blinking. I can't smile on this side of my face.
The megastar says he is suffering from Ramsay-Hunt syndrome, which is when a shingles outbreak affects a facial nerve, according to the Mayo Clinic. He says he will take some time to rest and recover so he can return to performing. Search crews have now found the bodies of 7 people in a helicopter crash in northern Italy. Crews had been searching for the helicopter since it went missing from radar screens on Thursday. An Italian pilot and 6 passengers from Lebanon and Turkey were on a business trip on the chopper. The wreckage was found near Tuscany. The cause of the crash is under investigation. In Alaska, get this, former Republican vice presidential candidate Sarah Palin is facing a tough crowd and a tough race for an open congressional seat. Palin hopes to fill the seat left vacant after Congressman Don Young died in March, but not even an endorsement from the former president may help her defeat St. Nick. That's right, one of her opponents is a North Pole councilman named Santa Claus. The 75-year-old, you can see him in this picture right here, says he supports abortion rights and backs environmentally friendly policies. He and Palin are among 48 candidates